Hello, I'm back again. Yeah, in my swing today. It's nice and cool, so I'm not all sweaty and horrible, which is good. And I wanted to talk about what happened after my initial awakening happened and what I discovered, which really made me question everything that had happened. So where I left it last time was I was just in a place where I was feeling really down and low and lost and crazy, really. It was a really difficult time, but at the same time I was receiving little kind of signs and things that were making me question what had happened to me still. So I wasn't completely convinced that like what I'd experienced was nothing. I was struggling with my mind because obviously when you've received a professional opinion and everyone else around you is of that opinion as well, it's very difficult for you to kind of process that that's not all there is to it. And I knew in my heart that that wasn't all there was to it, but my mind just kind of kept telling me, no, that's all there is. So I was not in a great place, and this lasted for quite a few months. But while it was going on, I was picking up information from the visions that I'd had. I didn't even realise until quite some time afterwards that I'd actually even had visions during my awakening. But yeah, like words and things would just come to me. Even before the awakening happened, I tagged a post on Instagram with the words "Mind Unleashed," which was actually a Facebook page which was all about unleashing your mind and looking at different perspectives and things like that, which I found afterwards. So I found that quite bizarre that I'd been using those words before I'd even had this experience. It was already coming into like my life and that. So I was following pages like Mind Unleashed and Collective Evolution and things like that, where they were questioning and writing articles about topics that really resonated with me. And I was learning how to kind of tell what ones resonated with me and what ones didn't, because there's so much information out there on kind of spiritual topics and things like that. It's really difficult. It's like a minefield of like going through and picking and choosing which ones sound right to you with what you've experienced, rather than like just going through and believing everything you read on the internet, because we all know there's a lot of shit out there. So things really started to kick off. I think my awakening happened in like March, April time, but things really started to kick off in October. October 31st. So my spiritual friend came down to stay with me. I have only one spiritual friend, and she came down to stay with me for a bit on Halloween. And as we all know, or as you know, people say, the veil's thin that time of year. I don't really understand what that means, but some strange things started happening. She came to stay with me, and I found her in my kitchen, and she's done like tarot readings and things before, and she likes to do psychic readings and things like that. And I've kind of listened to it and thought, yeah, I can understand what she's saying, and some of that is relevant to me, but I was always kind of skeptical and never really got into it or anything like that. But this totally changed all of that. She was stood in my kitchen, and she had hold of a photo. It was a family photo. Well, I wasn't in it, but I'd taken it, and it was when John's mum was dying, our last Christmas. So there was like his sister in the photo, her daughter and son, my kids, John, and then his mum. And I kind of said to my friend, I was like, are you okay? Because she's just standing there holding this picture and she's not like really doing anything. And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I said, well, come and sit down. So she's come into the room with the picture, still holding it. And I've sat down and she's just stood there. And all of a sudden, she just started talking, like really saying really strange things to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like talking about John's mum and how she feels about me. And I'm like, well, I don't really know John's mum that well. I mean, we weren't close or anything like that, really close, because obviously she lived in Wales, so there was a great distance between us. But she carried on talking and saying all this stuff, and she was talking about things that she couldn't have known about. Like, she was going into so much detail, and she was talking about my niece's teddy bear, which I know I've never spoken to her about. I mean, like, I know things that I've spoken to her about, and I've never really brought up John's family or anything like that. So for her to be going into all this detail, and she knew things that she couldn't have known. I mean, I hadn't seen her in 3 years, and we haven't really spent that much time together. And she was going into real detail, and that kind of freaked me out. And as she carried on, it started getting really emotional. Like, she was getting really emotional, but she was saying things to me, and it was like triggering things within myself as well. And I was getting really emotional too. So we were both kind of getting really emotional. All of a sudden, she threw the picture down and she was like, oh my god. And I'm like, what? And she's like, that wasn't me. And I was like, what? And she went, that wasn't me talking. And I was like, what do you mean that wasn't you talking? She said, I was standing over there by the door watching that. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? She was like, I think that was John's mum talking through me. And I was just like, okay, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. But she was so freaked out. Like, she's done readings and things and picked up on things before and got quite emotional, but I've never seen her freak out the way she did. She ended up going to bed. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I'm just sat there, like in my own thoughts and everything. And I went on Instagram. I don't even know why I went on Instagram, and I started looking through my pictures, and all of a sudden I had this like feeling of love come over me, and every time I looked at a picture it wasn't coming from me, because like I wasn't in a good place. So I was just getting all these feelings of love, and like basically hearing somebody like saying, oh, you know, look how beautiful you are, look at yourself, just look at who you are. And I was just like, this is nuts. And I was in floods of tears because I could feel all this love for me again. And I was like, I didn't know what was happening. And I just kind of thought, maybe it's John's mum. I don't know, because I'm not, like, I've never connected with spirits or anything like that before. So I mean, I was really skeptical. I mean, I was really skeptical when my friend was doing tarot card readings and things like that on me. But this was different. This was like something that I felt in myself as well. So it wasn't, and I know it wasn't coming from me, because I was incapable at that point of feeling love for myself. So I know those thoughts and feelings weren't mine. Anyway, that left me quite shaken up, I think. And it wasn't long after that, in November time, that she came back. John's mum came back, and she tried to contact me. She didn't try. She contacted me through somebody else. This time it was through a child. It was one of Frankie's friends. And we were just sat in Frankie's bedroom. No, it was Lola and Zed's bedroom. It doesn't matter what bedroom it was, but we were just sat in this bedroom chatting because something had happened and she was upset, so I was trying to comfort her and everything. And all of a sudden, she starts talking about Nanny Glad. And I'm like, well, she hadn't been friends with Frankie for that long, so she didn't really know anything about her. But she started bringing up things about Nanny Glad. Things that I didn't know. Things that she couldn't have known. Things that, you know, I had to go and check with John to make sure what she was saying was right. But the weird thing was, we were sat in this room and all of a sudden there was this cold chill that came through the room. So I got up to close the door because I thought there was a draft coming in. And as we were sat there talking and this girl was talking about Nanny Glad, this cold chill would pass from each one of us. So it was me, Frankie, and Lola and Frankie's friend, and this cold chill would pass through, we'd feel it, and we'd be like, oh my God, is that Nanny Glad? And like, there was no kind of air in the room. The doors weren't open or anything, and the blind was like moving, and we're like, oh my God. And she started talking and saying about how my house is haunted. And I was like, what? And this girl is like, you know, how old was she? She must have been 10 or 11, telling me that my house is haunted and like giving me messages from Nanny Glad. And they did mess with me, and Frankie did admit that they did mess with me a bit on this as well. So then, like, the gas would turn on and the kids would freak out. Frankie actually turned the gas on, but she didn't tell me that until this year. So I'm there, and I've had all these strange experiences anyway, and this is kind of like, whoa. Okay, so I phoned my friend up and I said, well, if my house is haunted, what do I do about it? And she said, okay, well, you need to like smudge your house. You need to get rid of any negative energy that's in there. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you mean. And she said, this is where Debbie might want to turn off so she doesn't get freaked out. She said, you know, if you've had fights or arguments in your house and it builds up negative energy, then things can come in because they're attracted to the negative energy that's built up in there. And I'm like, shit, me and John have never had the best relationship. It's been yeah, fun ever since I met him. Get on, we love each other, but oh my God, can we disagree and can we fight and argue like nobody's business, because we're both really stubborn. So I was like, right, okay, well, I need to clean my house. And she said, okay, well, you know, you need to move your furniture and just clear everything that this energy could be, and then smudge and, you know, just make noise in the corners to shift the energy. And I'm like, right, okay, then I'll do that. And I said, is there anything else? And she said, yeah, you can bless some salt and everything. And I'm like, right, okay, well, I'll do that as well. And I have gone into like the local rock shop to get sage and things like that, and like, it wasn't local, it was actually quite far away. I had to travel quite far to get my sage. I could have just got it in Tesco's. So I started smudging my house, but that's when really weird things started happening. I had rock salt as well, and I put a line of salt across each of the doorways. I drew across with garlic oil on all the doors and that. And at this time, Zed was he was really depressed, and it was really concerning to me. And I'd go into school and I'd be crying because he was so down. And he'd talk to me and he'd be feeling really low about himself. He was having other issues as well, like grinding his teeth in his sleep and all kinds of things that, you know, I was trying to deal with the best way I could. But, you know, seeing your son in distress, and you know it's not like fake crying and that, because when I was talking to him before bedtime, he was getting really, really tearful. And, you know, seeing his little face go, it was just breaking my heart. So a lot of weird things started happening after I'd salted the doors. The kids were behaving weirdly anyway. Lola went round my house and picked up loads of religious artifacts. Like, I had a little statue of Ganesh that my mum had brought me back from somewhere, and a little bronze Buddha. She went round, she collected like these pendants that my mum had brought as well from places like, I don't even know where they come from. They were kind of spiritual. They looked like, I don't know, protection symbols, crosses. She was rose quartz. We got that from the Natural History Museum. I'd never been into crystals or anything like that, but Lola was going around collecting all this stuff and bringing it to me, and like little Om symbols and things like that. People had brought me these things. They weren't something that I was into personally, but people had brought them for me. Like, my sister had brought me an Om symbol, and it had a bell on it that was supposed to be hung by a door. And all these are protection symbols. And Zed turned round to me after I put the salt across his doorway, and I hadn't really said that I was doing anything like that. And he made a comment that made me poo my pants. He turned round in the creepiest way possible. It was so fucking creepy, and said, "Mummy," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "When are you going to move that salt from my doorway?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he went, "When are you going to move that salt?" And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Because my friend can't get out." And I was like, piss off! What do you mean your friend can't get out? That's just weird. Stop saying weird things to me. I'm already like freaked out because I think my bloody house is haunted. Frankie's telling me about these bloody shadows that she sees all the time. That is the reason that she can't friggin' sleep at night. They're all coming at me with all this weird stuff, like really weird stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm listening to them because, you know, I'm experiencing weird things anyway. And they're adamant about this even now after everything has happened. You know, Frankie told me she turned the gas on, and I said, but was anything else made up? And she's adamant that was always seeing these weird shadows and things like that. So I'm like, oh my God, what is in my house? And I started cleaning and cleansing and going around like with rattles and things like that, shakers, and making noise in the corners to get rid of all the energy and smudging, and saying prayers and doing everything I could. And I started getting bruises on the backs of my leg, and they looked like fingerprints. And I just had this sudden feeling that I pissed something off, that there was something in my house, and I pissed it off because I knew it was there. And I was like, oh shit. I went back to the rock shop, and I said to the woman there, I was like, is there anything you can help me with? There's something in my house, I don't know what it is. And I told her everything that was happening, and she said, right, okay, there's some psychics I know that deal with this type of thing. And I was like, okay then. She said, I can give you some crystals, just put these like in the corners of the bedroom that you think it's happening in. And I was like, right, okay, because it used to be Frankie's bedroom, and we'd moved Zed in there, and Frankie and Lola were sharing a room. And Frankie had seen these shadow things in that room, and Zed was now in that room. And she said, you know, if your son's really down, just keep talking to him, make sure he's okay, like talk to him before bedtime and just reassure him and everything like that. And so I was doing that, and he'd get really, really tearful, and I was like, oh my God, this is like heartbreaking. So I spoke to these psychics and I said, can you help me? And she said, right, okay. And I've never like dealt with anything like this before, so I have no idea what she did. But she said to me, there's something on your son. And I was like, what do you mean there's something on my son? She said, I can see it. It's like this black cloak draped over him, and it's trying to get into his body. And I was like, what the hell? What? And she said, okay, well, I'm going to ask the angels to pull it off him. And I was like, okay, fine, do it. And she said, keep smudging your house. She said, don't be afraid. You know, if you give these things fear, then, you know, then you're like showing them fear, and you're not dealing with the problems that are there, if there are any problems there, you know. So it was weird, because it was almost like a automatic transformation as well in Zed. It took a while, like it took I'd say a couple of months of me cleaning, and it was intense cleaning, and strange things were happening while I was cleaning. So I was having to move all my furniture, like move beds and move big items of furniture, and there was a lot going on anyway. And there would be strange smells that would follow us. So we'd be sitting in a room, and this smell, kind of like the cold air had come past, this smell would just kind of waft, and then it would be somewhere else, and then it would come back. And it was also when I would move books and things like that to clean the surfaces, the smell would come out, and it was the same smell. It was like this really weird sulfury smell. So I don't know what that was. At times I would be cleaning and saging, and I would do a ritual where I'd start at the bottom of the house and I would work my way up, and then like finish in the attic. And I'd get to the attic, and I would suddenly feel this really, really like hot kind of, it's a really hard to describe. It was like a really hot, intense, angry feeling energy, and I was like, oh my fucking god. And I'd have to flip a window open to get it out, because I was like, whoa. And it would just be there in my space, and I'm like, oh my god, what is this? So I did a lot of cleaning of my house. Like when I moved the bed, the same smell. When I moved certain objects, certain things in certain rooms where there'd been fights and arguments recently, they would have this same smell attached to them. It was fucking weird. But Zed, and over time, it didn't happen instantaneously, but the more I did, because I got really into kind of looking at what might be in my house, because I wanted to be sure that I could get rid of it. So I was looking into Islam, and I mean, if I'd known this at school, I would have paid a lot more attention in religious studies and into their belief in the jinn and that. So I was playing spells to cast out jinn and things like that. I was like really looking at every possible angle, because whatever this was, it wasn't going easily. It was really hanging on in there, and like at night time I literally thought I was living in a horror movie. I was terrified at times, and the only kind of saving grace I had was the fact that I couldn't see anything. I could feel it, and I'd have to sleep with the lights on, and it wouldn't just be like one light, it would be all the lights in the house, to have light in the house, because I could feel something in my house, and it was really pissed off with me. And it was more than once that I had the bruises up the backs of my leg as well. I didn't feel what made the bruises, but they just appeared out of nowhere, and they were really like weirdly spaced. I actually had photos of them on my phone, which I dropped in the sea, so I don't have the evidence anymore. But I was like, damn, this is like proper weird stuff. My kids were hanging around in a haunted house as well, which I was like, oh god, you don't know if they're going to bring anything back with them. You know, they're hanging around in these places. I don't know anything about this side of the world. I've never been like, you know, had any kind of, I mean, I've had experiences when I was younger with weird things happening. Like I saw the ghost of my rabbit, which was odd, and a cat pounced on it, so the cat saw it as well, but there was nothing there. And then another time in my parents' house, I'd been at home ages on my own, and I'd like hung my coat up on the stairs, and I was watching TV and eating dinner, and the cat got pissed off and it started hissing at the stairs. And I opened the door to the stairs, and the fucking vacuum cleaner had switched itself on. And I was like, shit! So I'd had weird experiences in the past, but nothing like this. But the more I cleaned and the more I kind of like, you know, just became fearless to it. And I was talking to other people as well. Like I could tell the spiritual people in the village and that. And I ended up doing cleanings for them and getting rid of negative energy out of their homes because I could feel it. I was so sensitive to it. One woman, I went to see her because I was like, I could really use some help and guidance. And I found that every time I went for help and guidance, I'd end up helping the people. She had this energy on her stairs and in this bedroom, and I did it with my mum. We went round and smudged this lady's house. The three of us went round and we did the same ritual that I did in my house for her house, and her son wouldn't go upstairs. He got really freaked out. He wouldn't go upstairs, and after I'd been round and I could feel this energy on the stairs, she hadn't told me anything about the stairs. Something had happened there, but she hadn't told me anything about it. I could feel it in a couple of rooms in the house, and I was like, oh my god, I need to like get rid of this energy here. I could just feel it. It was like this really dense energy. And she said to me afterwards, she messaged me and thanked me for like helping her out, and she said her son went upstairs. He was unaware that we'd done anything. He was at school while we did it, and he said, Mummy, I can come upstairs on my own. I'm not afraid anymore. And I was like, oh my god. And my problems with Zed just disappeared. He wasn't getting depressed anymore. He had another big problem which just vanished like that, and this was a problem that we could not solve for love nor money. We had tried we were on the verge of trying everything to solve this problem, and it just disappeared. Like his mood lifted. He was a completely different child. So yeah, that was pretty weird. I mean, it was strange because Lola and Frankie were really in tune with what I was going through. We also, like, it was strange because the kids were syncing up with me as well. So where I was having strange spiritual experiences, they were also having these spiritual experiences as well. One of them was like absolutely nuts, but I'm like nearly half an hour of chatting now. So yeah, but I keep sage in my cupboard now. There's no shops over here where they sell like proper smudge sticks, so I just keep it in my cupboard, and if we have arguments and fights, I just go around and clear the energy and everything, because I don't really want a repeat of that. Because even though, you know, I got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I can't see this thing, I don't fucking care what it is, it can piss off. I'm gonna keep playing spells, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, it's not staying in my bloody house, it can bugger off. And I have, like, you know, I've since realised that I can go into a place and sense the sort of energy that's in there. So yeah, I'm quite handy to have around now. But yeah, that was weird, and that really kind of, you know, spun me out a lot. But more weird shit happened as well, like so much more. That wasn't the end of it. But anyway, I'll go into that another time, because yeah, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. So yeah, that's me. Okay, bye.